So Mike Bloomberg has essentially bought his way into the next Democratic debate, and if you've seen his poll numbers, they have gone up because he's essentially just throwing his near unlimited wealth into the Democratic primary. Now I'm going to get into all my thoughts about him, but the main point of the video is just to show that even the allowance of this man in the debate, where the DNC's changed their rules just to have him, shows that they are really okay with someone who's like Trump. As long as he is civil and as long as he doesn't completely embarrass America. They're okay with the racism. They're okay with the crony capitalism. They're okay with Bloomberg saying all these awful things about minorities. They're okay about him saying that he wants to get on board with the Republican tax plan. He wants to, not even have a minimum wage. He thinks healthcare and entitlements and social security are going to bankrupt corporations. Don't just take my word for it. I'm going to play you a nice little montage just after this introduction, and you can see for yourself all the awful things he has said. And before we get into the montage, just think, right? Trump ran on this platform in 2016 that he's going to fight the swamp, he's going to drain the swamp. He's already tweeting about Mike Bloomberg stealing the nomination from Bernie Sanders, and the corrupt Democrats are just letting him. Think of how well that will play with people who bought into this drain the swamp stuff. Remember, Republicans don't care about what they've actually done. They don't care that Trump is the swamp. You show them Bloomberg and you show Trump saying that to him, it's just going to be a colossal win for Trump, in my opinion. If you nominate someone like Bloomberg, it's going to be hard even with someone like Bernie Sanders, I feel. But Bloomberg is such an easy target, and if you think he's the answer because he's civil, he's the unity candidate, just because he doesn't cause an uproar like Bernie by actually challenging the status quo, then you're going to end up with another 4 years of Trump. And even if Bloomberg was the nominee and Trump lost, then you have Bloomberg, who's way more sinister than Trump because he's probably a lot more competent and he's not as outrageous. So he's not going to come out with these ridiculous statements and not get his agenda passed. And maybe Mike Bloomberg might be a good candidate for bipartisanship by getting horrible Republican policies passed, but he can maybe get the corporate Dems on side. Anyway, please take a look at this montage.
Joe Biden went out and apologized for being male, over 50, white. He apologized for the one piece of legislation, which is actually a pretty good anti-crime bill, which if the liberals ever read it, most of the things they like is in that bill. They should have loved that, but they never even bothered to read it. You're anti-crime, you must be anti-populist. Cohort of black and Latino males aged, let's say, 16 to 25, that don't have jobs, don't have any prospects, don't know how to find jobs, don't know what their skill sets are, don't know how to behave in the workplace where they have to work collaboratively.
The mayor would be better served to run as a Republican.
He's the most viable candidate to beat Donald Trump.
If you want a Democrat to win, they have to know how to fight like a Republican. That's right. He's a Republican. He used to anyway.
New details on allegations of sexism.
That she was pregnant, she said that to him, and he said to her, kill it.
The crucial thing for me is that everybody has to speak English. And I think Mike mentioned that, and that's absolutely central to our identity and to our culture.
This is a country where we speak English, not Spanish.
You've got to ask yourself, why during the Obama administration didn't we pull together? Well, I asked the president. That's his job, really, to pull people together.
We're not going to do yes, we can, and then all of a sudden have all these Democrats that's bantying President Obama's image on their commercials.
One politician applauding the compromise on tax cuts, New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg.
Let's get serious. The entitlements are going to bankrupt us, just like the pension system and health care is going to bankrupt corporations.
I think having a low minimum wage is not a bad thing for this country.
I, for example, am not in favor, have never been in favor of raising the minimum wage.
95% of the murderers and murder victims fit one MO. They are male minorities, 15 to 25. Put those cops where the crime is, which means in minority neighborhoods. So,
at its core, a spying operation targeting Muslim Americans where they live, work, and pray.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
The NYPD surveillance of the Muslim community was even wider than previously known. Mayor Bloomberg says putting fingerprints on Social Security cards would help control the nation's borders and give employers a way to check whether potential hires are legal citizens.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime.
And if you're an undocumented, illegal, they just don't give you the job. And you're not going to come here if you can't get a job.
So shout out to progressive Middle Eastern Mahmoud Kenny 98, who made part of that montage. He just put it on Twitter. So go give him a follow if you liked it. But what was good about Mahmoud's montage was he was comparing Trump and Bloomberg. He was showing how the rhetoric used by Bloomberg is not that much different to Trump. It's thematically consistent. So the fact that Democrats are supporting someone like Bloomberg, the fact that the DNC itself are letting him in the party and they aren't calling him out, where is the constant criticism of him on mainstream media? There just isn't much of it, because they are okay with it. Now, I was pretty skeptical when Jimmy Dore used to say that they're all the same, because I used to say they are both arms of the American empire, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. But the Democratic Party at least pretend to care about some stuff, so they're not as monstrous as the GOP. They're already letting Bloomberg push his way into the race just through his money. So that shows you a bit of what they're like. If they let him steal the nomination, that shows you America is a one-party state, without a doubt. And I'm already leaning to believe in that anyway. So they don't care that Trump is racist. Nancy Pelosi, Elizabeth Warren, they vote for Trump's military budget. They vote for the consistent military aid for Israel. Because one of the most powerful Middle Eastern countries really needs $3-something billion in military aid while they occupy another people, the Palestinians. They need military aid, don't they? They go along with the foreign policy, the imperialist foreign policy. Most of the Democrats, even ones who aren't as conventional as mainstream corporate Dems, like Elizabeth Warren, they go through the status quo. And if they don't have a problem with someone like Bloomberg who says these racist things, who says these things about getting rid of the minimum wage, tax cuts, scrapping entitlements, how is he meant to be seen as the same vein as someone like even Obama, who I have my problems with? You're going to let this guy steal the nomination because you're so against someone who just wants to make life better for Americans. You're against someone who will take on the pharmaceutical industry. You're against someone who will take on Wall Street. You're against someone who will take on the military-industrial complex. You hate that so much, you're willing to elect your own Trump, but the only difference is he is more civil and he's not as embarrassing. But on the policies, thematically, he is very, very similar to Trump. So like many people are saying, you want to replace a racist New York billionaire with another racist New York billionaire. A guy who talks about illegal immigration in the same vein as Trump. A guy who ordered the NYPD to surveil the Muslim community post 9/11. A guy who says all these awful things about black and Latino men, saying they don't have manners, they can't get a job just because of them. While at the same time talking about slashing all safety nets, talking about slashing minimum wage because he doesn't believe in it, just like Donald Trump doesn't believe in it. So ask yourselves, Democrats, is this really what you believe in? Even centrist Democrats, you believe in someone like Bloomberg, you believe in a civil Trump. And that's a problem. If Trump ran as a Democrat, say he was never president, would you like it because he's not Bernie Sanders? I'm starting to think some of you would. You still see the hysteria on social media, online, talking about Bernie bros, talking about sexism, talking about brown shirts, calling Bernie supporters brown shirts. Chris Matthews thinking he'll be purged in Central Park if Bernie gets in. What is your problem? What's your deal? But it's clear that when someone like this challenges the status quo and challenges the establishment, this is what's going to happen. It happened with Jeremy Corbyn in the UK. I think it's a good blueprint of what's going to happen to Bernie in general. Every establishment journalist, every corporate news outlet, even the taxpayer-funded news outlet, the BBC, were all against Jeremy Corbyn, smeared consistently, right? Racist, anti-Semite. They all helped Johnson get in. Johnson's advisor believes in eugenics. Johnson has had numerous racist things. They just fired another advisor because he was sexist and published things about master races and eugenics. That's who they let in the door because they don't care about racism. They don't care about equal rights for everyone. They just care about stopping people who will challenge the status quo and challenge the establishment. That is the main point of this. They don't care anyone else who gets in. And that's why they always say, if you cut a liberal, you cut a centrist, a fascist bleeds. Because in essence, they would rather a fascist than a socialist. And we see this throughout history. It always happens. The so-called moderates will back people like Hitler. They'll back people like Franco. They'll back people like Mussolini. Because in their opinion, the alternative is so much worse. But of course it's not. It's just easy to do nothing and let the fascists, let the corporatists, let the militarists take over rather than take a stand and fight for progressive change, because that is the hardest thing to do. And it's just frustrating to see, as bad as I think the Democratic Party are, you know, do you think they'd sink to these depths of putting someone who essentially just is Trump, is even from New York, is even a billionaire, and it's just a bit more polished? You know, it's like what David Duke did with racism. He made it more mainstream by being more civil about it, not being as explicit, but his, you know, the themes he believed in were the same as any really rabid racist, and just polishing it up doesn't change that. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the video. Let me know about what you think will happen with the Democratic primary. Do you think that they'll steal it from Bernie? Are they that awful? Follow me on social media at The Cavanacle on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Please check out my Reddit, that is the best thing to follow. u/TommyCahill1995 for my personal Reddit. r/TheCavanacle for my subreddit, and that's quite fun. We've got 31 people now, so please come and join. It's growing every day. And check out my Patreon in the description. Thanks to all my patrons as usual. Please check out my WordPress where I just write some things. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.